Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Axel, and today we're gonna try something a little bit different. So I have a photo shoot like an hour and a half away, and I want to take you guys in it, kind of some vlogging, behind the scenes, how to shoot things, that type of video. Now, I don't know how to do that. I just kind of turn on the camera, but no better time than now to start, right? So we're gonna go with it. I'm actually packing the drone. I don't think I'm allowed to fly where I'm shooting at. There's no more satisfying feeling than to see all your DJI batteries fully charged. That's just, I feel like a grown adult. It's amazing. The people that I'm doing this photo shoot for, some of my best friends, they just got engaged, and it's actually kind of cool because I'm the one that set them up like 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm super pumped for that. But like a week or two ago, they reached out like, "Hey, can you do our engagement shoot?" I was like, "Heck yes!" And yesterday, as I was charging all my equipment up and getting ready, I thought, "Man, this would be a pretty fun video. One, to get out of my house during COVID, and two, to show you guys some more content outside of just my bedroom." So that's what we're doing today. It wouldn't be a photo shoot if I didn't wear a denim jacket. So before I go, I'm gonna put this on. Man, now that feels right. Let's go to the shoot. Bro, I don't know how people record themselves all the time. This thing is terrifying. So, conquering fears 2021. So we just made it here, and the reason I have my mask in my car is that to get into the gate and pay, they require you to wear a mask. So that's why I'm not one of those weird people that have their mask in their car. I have good news and bad news. Good news is that we can take photos anywhere in the grounds, and it's beautiful here. Bad news is that they're not allowing me to do video for some weird reason. I don't get it, to be honest. What's really the difference between photo and video? But worst case, you're gonna see future me here in a few seconds editing the photos and giving some insight of how the shoot went. We're back here in my apartment as we're editing the photos, and the first thing that I did once I brought them into Lightroom was that I went through almost 2,000 photos and 5-star the ones that I thought were good enough to go into an editing process. I didn't screen record this because this took over around 2 hours, and it's not that exciting. Now that I 5-star the photos, I'm going through them and putting my preset on them, and I decided to do more of an airy yellow and blue type of photo since we're shooting outside. The way that I like to do it is that I go to the first photo of each scene or each time that we change the scenery, and I adjust my colors to look right for that. From there, I'll copy those settings and I'll paste them to the rest of the photos that were shot in that scene. That helps a lot because even when you're shooting outside for a few hours, the sun's gonna move, the shadows are gonna be different, so your colors can't be exactly the same every single time. And that includes your exposure, your highlights, your blacks, your whites, your shadows. All that's gonna be slightly different depending on where you're shooting. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is just copying your colors from your first photo and putting them on all the photos. It's just calling it a day. It might look good on some, but there's gonna be a lot that don't look good. Like I mentioned earlier, the sun's gonna move around, the shadows are gonna be different, everything's just gonna be different. So as I'm editing these photos, I'm going through and trying to figure out what can I do to save the colors. It was a super bright day, so it was hard to keep the identities of the colors pure, but in post I was able to bring them back a little bit and mess with some saturation and get them to be where I want them to be. The cool thing with this shoot is that even though we live in Florida, it doesn't look like it's in Florida, which I love. As we're driving around, our goal is, what's the least Floridian landscape that we can find, and let's shoot there. I didn't do a lot of skin correction during post. There was a few photos that I applied my high pass filter technique to, which if you haven't seen that video of how to do it, I totally recommend. Pause this video, click the link above, watch it, It's very helpful, and I used that technique for these photos because I wanted to create a smoother transition between the highlights and the shadows. I tried my best to keep Alex and Deasia in front of the sun to make it really smooth and soft on the skin, but there were corners and sides where the sun still comes through because it's so bright outside. So the way that I use the high pass filter in this scenario is to be able to make it smooth during that transition between a lighter shadow and a darker shadow. I wanted to take a second from showing you how to edit the photos to show you this beautiful landscape. I'm actually here with my friends, Deasia and Alex.
What's up, guys?
They're the models today. They're about to get engaged. They're great. Alex has been a good friend for like 4 or 5 years now. Deasia's the girl that stole him from me, even though I kind of set them together.
Yeah, you made this happen.
This is where we just shot. You'll see some photos of it if you haven't already. But yeah, let's go back to future Axel as he's editing these photos. The high pass technique also helps with small blemishes, pimples, wrinkles, stuff like that. With these photos, I didn't use the soft brush at 100%. I was around 50, and depending on the blemish, we used it 1 or 2 times over it. So some of them did look a little bit stronger than others, but for the most part, I used the soft brush at 50% to keep a very realistic tone to the whole photo. Another tool that I used a lot during the edits was a radial tool. The reason that I went with the radial tool instead of the brush tool or the gradient tool, I wanted to make sure that I can bring up my exposure and bring up my sharpness in an even way. And personally, I feel like I can do that a little bit better in the radius tool. Now, I didn't push the sharpness a lot. This is something that if you crank it up to 100 can look super cheap. So I'm kind of flirting between 5 and 7%. And the reason that I'm using this is because I lost some of my sharpness trying to underexpose my photo since it was so bright during the shoot. With that, I lost some details as I brought those blacks up. So now the sharpness brings those details back. And most of my edits for these photos I made in Lightroom. There are a few that I brought into Photoshop, but those were specifically to do the high pass filters and did everything else in Lightroom to keep it compact. But thanks to the Adobe Bridge, I can just hit Command E on my keyboard from Lightroom. It opens up a file in Photoshop. I make my edits there, hit Command S in Photoshop, and it comes back into Lightroom with all the new edits that I made. And that's one of the many reasons why I love the Adobe ecosystem. It's just so easy to go from one program to the other, to the other, to the other, and save hard drive space. I love it. So there you go, YouTube. That's how you can edit some engagement photos. I know the video was a little bit different today. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Is it good? Is it bad? Any ideas for future content? I want to know all about it. Right down below in the comments. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. New content coming out every single week. Love you guys. Peace.